Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to run your interactor tests on a chain simulator, which is a local chain that we're going to run on our machines. This method is really important because we can run complex tests in a real blockchain scenario without actually spending any tokens or worrying about wallets going out of tokens and stuff like that. So if we run the blockchain locally, we can basically create scenarios that are reproducible, so we can integrate these tests into our pipelines and GitHub Actions and stuff like that. One of the most important features of the chain simulator is that the blocks are put manually, so you have to specify when to actually create a new block, which is great because we can do time-sensitive operations really quickly. We don't have to wait for a block to be created on the devnet. And also the chain simulator is a copy of the mainnet, so all the crazy scenarios that we can think about, we can actually replicate, cross-shard things and stuff like that. As usual, you can find more details about this in our documentation. If you search for chain simulator adder, you can find a really good tutorial about how to create chain simulator for the adder contract. Okay, so now we had our interactor generated. We saw what it can do. We saw that it can deploy and interact with the contracts programmatically on the devnet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to basically put the same scenario on the chain simulator. So some code modifications that we did, we added config as a parameter to the new function of contract interact. In this way we can quickly specify which kind of configuration we want, so we can actually leave this file alone. We don't need to comment anything or decomment anything, and now our new function will read the content of the file. So whenever we do config new, we're going to receive a devnet configuration, and wherever we do a config chain simulator config, we are going to receive a chain simulator configuration. And this is constant, by the way, so it's always going to be the same configuration. It runs on localhost 8085, so it's always going to be the same. In this way we can basically separate our tests and not ruin any of them. Okay, so there are a few steps needed in order to run these tests on chain simulator. So first of all, we need Docker installed and open. I have my Docker open through Docker desktop. Then we need to switch the interactor config to chain simulator, which we already did by creating an interactor with the config of chain simulator. And then you just need to start the chain simulator by using spacecraft meta chain simulator start. Of course, also install the latest Docker image that's been published by the protocol. The syntax is basically the same. We're just using the same interactor, the same data type, but we are just switching the configuration, basically the environment where the interactor is launching transactions. So it should be pretty easy. We created a new interactor using the chain simulator config, so we're just going to follow the steps that we mentioned before. Docker open, it's already open for me. Switch interactor config, we already did that. Let's do a spacecraft meta. Alright, so it pulled the latest chain simulator image. So now we can do spacecraft meta cs start. Okay, so as you can see, the chain simulator already started locally. You can dive deep and see all these things and what they do. They create a consensus group and everything. Basically, all the everything that's happening on the mainnet happens here. So right now, if I run this test, let's create another terminal. If I run this test, this will actually create a contract, will deploy a contract on my chain simulator. So let's try it out. Okay, so my contract has been deployed. We can see here that a transaction happened, and also some blocks were put on top of it. If you go back to the interactor code, we have this code: generate blocks until epoch. This is for the so that deployment and core stuff is available. And usually what happens is that after every transaction we generate some blocks so that the transaction is processed. So here not everything is verbose. As you can see, it just says that something has happened, some blocks were processed, but the actual result of the transaction is not given to us. So what we can do, the chain simulator basically works like the MultiversX gateway. So we can go to gateway.multiversx.com, and here we can see all the endpoints that are available for us to fetch. So we're interested, let's see this endpoint /address / the actual address, or maybe we can see some other endpoint, transaction endpoint. Alright, this endpoint gives us the transaction results and also like all the details about the transaction. So let's try that one. Usually when you work with mainnet, you would go to gateway and try to basically attach the endpoint that you want to the link, such as .com/transactions let's try our hash, which is a transaction on chain simulator, so of course it's not found on the mainnet. But now, because we are running our own chain, we can do the same for our chain. The only difference is that we're not trying to call gateway, we're trying to call localhost, which is basically our chain simulator. So we'll do localhost port 8085, and then we're gonna do the same. We're gonna try the same endpoint transaction. We put the takes hash, and then we're gonna put the results true. So this is our transaction. This is how we can check the details of the transactions on the chain simulator. As you can see, it's a smart contract deployment that's been successful. Now let's try to replicate the previous scenario right there, and to be fair, we can just copy paste it because it's the same data type, it's the same structure, everything. So we can just copy paste it, of course change the name, because now we are working with the chain simulator interactor, and it should work by itself. Great. Now let's try to run this. Alright, so it already ran a bit faster, and we can see the same result. Let's try to search for this hash. So this is the deploy hash, and this is the set storage hash. Let's see how this looks like. Okay, so it's a smart contract invoking call, and yeah, we can see that it actually worked. So just as easy as that, we were able to basically write the tests only once based on the generated code that spacecraft meta gave us, of course with just a few modifications, and we were able to run our tests on DevNet and also on the chain simulator. You can do as many tests as you want, and these tests can also be included in your pipeline, because each time this runs, the configuration is renewed, so you're not going to run out of funds or anything like that. If you'd like, you can go deeper and check these functions whenever you register a wallet. Normally for the interact we use the test wallet. The framework actually gives us some template wallets that are public and that everybody can use, and you can quickly access them through test wallets. And basically For the chain simulator, we register a wallet and then we send funds to that wallet, a lot of funds, so you don't have to worry about it. And we generate some blocks. As we mentioned before, we have to generate blocks after each interaction so that it is processed on the blockchain.